Good afternoon, I'm Mai Rodriguez. This is Newsfeed at noon on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. We begin with the high-level talks between the Philippines and China over recent confrontations between their Coast Guard vessels in disputed waters. China says the discussions between its Vice Foreign Minister Chen Xiaodong and Manila's Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Maria Teresa Lazaro in Beijing were candid. Both sides agreed to focus on areas of cooperation and manage the situation in Escoda Shoal, which has emerged as a new flashpoint in the maritime dispute. The Philippines insisted Escoda Shoal is within its exclusive economic zone, a claim China has repeatedly rejected. Fake news, that's how Malacanang describes reports circulating online that Defense Chief Gilbert Teodoro has resigned. The palace says Teodoro remains in his post as President Marcos's trust and confidence in him has never wavered. It also branded the resignation rumors as pathetic attempts to sow disunity in the Defense Department. The president himself laughed off the rumors.
Fake news. Yan. Ang lumalabas lang dyan, ito mga desperado, nag-iimbento na lang na istorya para gumawa lang ng gulo. Kailangan maingat po tayo. Huwag tayo masyadong naniniwala kung wala namang pruweba na sa kanilang mga sinasabi. Dito sa issue ng kay Secretary Teodoro, natatawa na lang kami.
House lawmakers have cited former Duterte spokesperson Harry Roque in contempt as the Quad Committee resumed its probe into the drug war and illegal pogos. Our reporter Hannah T is on the scene at the Batasang Pambansa for more details. Hannah.
My attorney Harry Roque has once again been ordered detained at the House of Representatives after his failure to issue documents. This time, Roque will be detained until he issues these documents. The House Quad Committee was requesting for key documents including his business records, tax returns, and SAL-N. Roque was also ordered detained last month for lying to the committee about his Manila court appearance, which he used as an excuse for his absence in the first Quad Committee hearing. First on the agenda of the Quadcom today is the investigation on extrajudicial killings under the previous administration. We've seen ex-CIDG official Royina Garma here at the hearing who is tagged in the killings of 3 Chinese drug lords in 2016. Later this afternoon on the second part of the hearing, pogos are expected to be discussed.
Hannah, simultaneous with the Quadcom hearing, Congresswoman Stella Quimbo held a press briefing regarding the budget of the Office of the Vice President. What can you tell us about this?
Yes, that's right. My Representative Stella Quimbo announced that the House Appropriations Committee proposed a budget cut for the Office of the Vice President. From the original proposed budget, which is 2.073 billion, the panel recommended a 733 million peso budget for the OVP for 2025. This means that more than half, or almost 1.3 billion pesos has been cut from the original allocation endorsed by the Budget Department. The reduction will be added to the DSWD and DOH. And Quimbo said it was a committee decision made by 139 members, which is a unanimous decision. The OVP's budget will move to plenary debate, which will start next week. Back to you.
Thank you, Hannah T, live from the Batasang Pambansa. Speaking of the OVP budget, Vice President Duterte is ready for a 1 peso funding for her office next year. The OVP's budget had been deferred twice due to unresolved issues over her expenditures. The Vice President has accused House leaders of manipulating the national budget as part of attacks against her. She also claimed the budget hearings were scripted. House Appropriations Committee Chairman Elizalde Co denied these. Co also hit back at Duterte, accusing her of stealing her office's secret funds.
Siya po ang scripted, siya po ang budol. Ayaw niya talagang sumagot sa confidential fund dahil hindi niya kayang ipaliwanag. Kasi ninakaw niya yung pera. Ang tanong diyan, isauli niya dapat yung pera.
The Senate is looking into the terminated national ID card printing contract between the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and Allcard. Senate Finance Committee Chairperson Grace Poe cites concerns by the Commission on Audit that the BSP under former Governor Benjamin Diokno may have subcontracted Allcard for the printing of national ID cards, which is prohibited under the deal. The senator speculates the BSP may have terminated the contract after realizing this is a possible violation of the agreement with the Philippine Statistics Authority. Poe describes the potential breach as a serious issue that can nullify the agreement and hold the BSP liable. The senator has formally requested the COA to report its findings on the agreement. As for the BSP, it asserts it has adhered to procurement guidelines and its agreement with the PSA. A day after the fiery presidential debate, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump set politics aside as America marks the 21st or 23rd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. They were present at New York's Ground Zero Memorial, along with President Joe Biden. They kept their animosity hidden, a stark contrast to their evening showdown where Harris put Trump on the defensive with a stream of attacks. Both Trump and Harris declared victory in their debate, seen as a make-or-break moment for both candidates, with just weeks to go before Election Day. From New York, President Biden and Vice President Harris headed to the Pentagon Memorial in Arlington. They were joined by the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who addressed the families of 9/11 victims. The September 11 attacks was the worst terrorist assault on U.S. soil. It left nearly 3,000 people dead, more than 2,600 at the World Trade Center, 189 at the Pentagon, and 265 on 4 planes.
We have repaired the damage to this building, but we cannot repair the damage to your hearts. No words can take away your grief. No amount of time can make sense of the worst terrorist attack in American history. And I know that for those whose lives were changed forever on 9/11, it can feel as if more and more Americans are returning to normal life on each new September 11th. But not here, not at the Pentagon, because we remember. The men and women of the Department of Defense remember. And we always will.
Donald Trump has no plans yet for another debate against Kamala Harris, but the Republican presidential bet says he may consider doing one with NBC and Fox. Harris and Trump are in a tight race for the White House, and the November 5 election will likely go down the wire.
Well, you know, when you don't win, it's like a fighter. When a fighter has a bad fight, gets knocked out, or loses the fight, the first thing he says is, we want a rematch. So we won the debate according to every poll, every single poll. I think that, are we going to do a rematch? I just don't know, but we'll think about it.
Singapore's parliament welcomes Pope Francis on day 2 of his visit to the city-state. After meeting Singapore's president, the Pope was presented with a specially grown orchid, the national flower of Singapore, named after him. It's a practice reserved for visiting heads of state, royalty, and celebrities. The Pope is on the final leg of a 12-day journey to promote inter-religious harmony, which included stops in Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, and Indonesia. Coming up, Vietnam reeling from Typhoon Yagi. The death toll from floods and landslides climbs. Keep it here on BNC. we're back. You're still watching Newsfeed. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines welcomes the surrender of former Palawan Governor Joel Reyes, the alleged mastermind in the murder of environmentalist Jerry Ortega in 2011. With Reyes in custody, the NUJP expects justice to be served. The group also vows to continue monitoring the murder case. Reyes had been at large since 2022. He turned himself in to the NBI on Wednesday. Active mpox cases here in the country now at 15, but the health department tells the public, don't be alarmed. Most of the cases are in Metro Manila, which confirmed its first infection only last month.
Of the 15 cases, 14 are males, and then isa ang female. Okay. And then, ito, yung sinabi ko kanina, 11 ang taga-NCR, 3 Calabarzon, and then isa sa Cagayan Valley.
The DOH says the mpox virus is not airborne. It can be transmitted through intimate skin-to-skin contact or exposure to contaminated objects. Congresswoman and former Health Secretary Janet Garin pushing back against a former DOH advisor who claimed to have resigned after she questioned his credentials. On BNC's At the Forefront, Garin admitted she did ask if Dr. Tony Liachon was an expert, but she insisted it was a mere question and that Liachon was never really appointed in the health department. Garin also described Liachon as a self-proclaimed expert and a pathological liar.
Specialists. He wanted to occupy a Director 4 position. And we all know that Director 4s are plantilla position, and let's say they would report to the office 8 hours a day. But then he was insisting that he's just a consultant, a special advisor. So a Director 4 is just like a regional director. So you cannot just be an advisor but occupy the Director 4 position, which is actually a presidential appointee.
Garin also believes Liachon had a personal motive for testifying against her in the infamous dengue vaccine controversy. Last week, a Quezon City court acquitted Garin on all criminal charges over the anti-dengue vaccine.
Tony Liachon, he was very much interested to be the Secretary of Health. In fact, when we met and he conveyed that interest, I told him, like, I'm willing to talk to the former president in not accepting I was acting Secretary of Health at that time. So I was not yet a full-fledged Secretary of Health, not yet appointed and not yet confirmed. So I was willing to recommend him. Unfortunately, it was beyond my pay grade.
Over in the UK, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer promising to fix the National Health Service, or NHS. He says a 10-year plan is already in the works after an independent report found the NHS to be in critical condition. The report said the state-run NHS has been in crisis, struggling to recover from the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and a lack of investment. Heading to typhoon-hit Vietnam, evacuations are underway after Yagi barreled through the northern part of the country. The storm brought winds of close to 150 kilometers per hour and heavy rains that caused massive flooding. Yagi, known here in the Philippines as Enteng, killed at least 179 people across Vietnam. Landslides also struck a remote mountainous village, leaving dozens dead and missing. The coach of the young Thai football team that captured the world's attention when they spent nearly 3 weeks trapped in a cave finds himself in a similar predicament. This time, he was stuck on his roof by flash floods caused by Typhoon Yagi. The coach said he relied on his 2018 experience with the Wild Boars team to get through this latest ordeal. Floodwaters rose quickly in his village in the northern Thai district of Mae Sai early Tuesday, leaving him and his family with no time to escape. The flooding has since subsided. The Philippines climbs 2 spots in the latest Best Countries ranking of U.S. News and World Report. It is now 45th out of 89 nations. The report describes the Philippines as the land of beautiful beaches and abundant biodiversity with a resilient economy despite being plagued by political instability. Switzerland claims the top ranking while Japan rises 4 spots to secure second place. The annual report serves as a snapshot of how nations are perceived on the world stage. The private consortium taking over management of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport this week guarantees uninterrupted airport operations during the transition. The San Miguel-led New NAIA Infrastructure Corporation, or NNIC, says future changes and improvements will be carried out gradually and strategically. It adds the modifications, including terminal assignments, will be coordinated closely with airline stakeholders. NNIC will formally lead the country's main gateway this Saturday, kicking off modernization efforts aimed at improving airport capacity and passenger experience. Zara owner Inditex, the world's biggest fashion retailer, hit record earnings in the first half of the year. The Spanish group logged a 10% growth in net profit to 2.8 billion euros or $3 billion. This was on the back of the strong performance of its spring and summer collections as Inditex recovered from a summer marred by bad weather. Sales, meanwhile, grew by 7.2%, slower than the 13.5% expansion a year ago. Inditex has invested in logistics and technology to deliver fashion faster and keep prices low amid competition from low-cost shopping platforms like China's Shein. Samsung, the world's top maker of smartphones, TVs, and memory chips, plans to cut up to 30% of its overseas staff. Sources tell Reuters Samsung already instructed subsidiaries worldwide to reduce sales and marketing staff by about 15% and administrative staff by up to 30%. The plan will be implemented by the end of this year and would impact jobs across the Americas, Europe, Asia, and Africa. It's still unclear how many people would be let go and which countries and business units would be most affected. In a statement, Samsung said the workforce adjustments at some overseas operations were routine. Up next, we go to Buckingham Palace as King Charles gets affectionately mobbed by New Zealand's women's rugby team. Stay with Newsfeed here on BNC. You're still watching Newsfeed on BNC. Pierre Cardin bridging the worlds of space and fashion. The French fashion house has teamed up with the European Space Agency to design a training suit for astronauts. The prototype was unveiled at Pierre Cardin's workshop in Paris and tried on by German astronaut Matthias Maurer.
I'm trying the spacesuit, or the training suit, and you can tell the difference if it was just made by engineers or if there's also somebody who knows how to work the textile. So the original spacesuits that I've worn so far, I always had pressure points, a lot of pressure points, and now it feels very nice inside.
The workshop developed fabrics that could resist extreme temperatures and at the same time offer comfort and mobility. The suits will be used in Luna, a new moon surface simulation building at the ESA base in Cologne. Britain's National Gallery in London is celebrating its 200th anniversary this year with a blockbuster exhibition. The gallery will feature paintings by one of the world's most popular artists, Vincent van Gogh, including one of his famed sunflowers, which was acquired 100 years ago. The exhibit, titled Van Gogh, Poets and Lovers, opens September 14 and will run until January next year.
It is special simply the sheer number of pictures that we have been able to assemble, 61, which is a considerable number for Vincent, and the fact that they come from literally all over the world. And at the same time that so many of them will be little known to our audience. That is to say, it's an exhibition that combines both universally loved and well-known masterpieces by Vincent and ones you've never seen before.
Surf culture is coming to Abu Dhabi. Next month, the world's largest artificial wave pool will open at the United Arab Emirates. The 650-meter-long pool will also be filled with seawater, giving the perfect illusion of being on the beach. King Charles finds himself in something of a royal scrum as he accepts a hug from the New Zealand women's rugby team during a Buckingham Palace reception. Charles was affectionately mobbed by the Black Ferns, who are in Britain to take on England's Red Roses. Champagne was served for the King's guests, but the rugby players opted for fruit juice and water. The match between the Black Ferns and the Red Roses this Saturday is a repeat of the 2022 World Cup final, won by New Zealand in Auckland. Still on the Royals, Prince Harry turns 40 this Saturday. Harry and his wife, Meghan Markle, are still based in the United States, estranged from the family, and they're no longer working royals. Harry has only returned to Britain for occasional key events, like the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II in 2022. Earlier this month, the BBC reported that Harry was not planning to return to live in Britain, saying concerns over his and his family's security in the UK remain an issue. From the royals to K-pop, RM of BTS turned 30 today. The South Korean rapper, songwriter, and record producer first rose to fame in 2013 with BTS, the first and only Korean act to reach #1 on the US Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. He is also the first and only global ambassador for fashion brand Bottega Veneta. RM released his first solo mixtape in 2015 and another in 2018. And before we go, Swifties are truly in their Kamala Harris era after her perfectly timed endorsement of the U.S. Vice President. Global pop superstar Taylor Swift posted an Instagram story urging Americans to register to vote. And like clockwork, her followers delivered. Her post drove at least 330,000 visits to the vote.gov website within hours after it was published. This isn't the first time vote.gov enjoyed a Swift bump. Last year, Taylor posted a similar link and the website saw an over 1,000% increase in traffic. And those are the news this hour. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Keep it here on BNC, Bilyonaryo News Channel. Good afternoon.